Hey, there are people running around like Donald Trump Jr. and Ben Shapiro saying that Texas Senator Ted Cruz, I was trying to resist calling him, Ted Cancun Cruz or all that stuff just for the purpose of getting through this, right? But I just couldn't help myself. Anyway, that Ted Cruz couldn't do anything because he's a senator. As Trump said, he legislates, he's a legislator, he can't do anything. Folks, and then not only that, Trump Jr. made the mistake of saying that we should get on Texas governor because Texas governor is a Democrat. No, Texas governor is not a Democrat. He's a Republican. Governor Abbott is a Republican. In fact, GOP Governor Abbott received a call from Democratic President Joe Biden yesterday discussing how the federal government is going to marshal different ways or continue to marshal different ways to help Texas survive the worst winter storm in history, or at least one of them. I remember the one from '83, but I digress. But lost in all this is the fact that I think a lot of you are in a generation that never heard of Charlie Wilson. Texas 2nd District Representative Charlie Wilson. Texas 12-term Charlie Wilson. I said senator, no, he was a representative. A congressman, okay? A congressman known for having a good time. If you had a meeting with him at 2 o'clock in the morning, I didn't, but there's an example of this. He would say, hey, you want a drink? Charlie, it's 10. Okay, he was a guy who loved to have a good time, loved beautiful women, loved to have fun. Until a socialite named Joanne Herring, who was a friend of his, brought to him the problems of the Afghans who were up against the Soviets, but they were basically more than outgunned. They had no guns. So to make a long story short, Charlie Wilson initiated what is still today the largest covert war in history. The point I'm making is this. Oh, by the way, Charlie Wilson was a Democrat. But the point I'm making is this. If Charlie Wilson, who in the famous movie that I love, where Tom Hanks started, the late Texas representative, a party guy who was described in one part of the movie as a guy who had no consequence whatsoever, which really isn't true, can bring together the CIA, the Pentagon, and the Defense Department to activate a covert war which attracted billions and attracted other legislators, regardless of the side of the aisle they were on, to basically lead success in a war that eventually led to the end of the Soviet Union. Do you mean to tell me that Ted Cruz, a senator, can't marshal resources to help the people of the same state of Texas? You know what that tells me? It tells me that Ted Cruz doesn't really understand what it means to be a senator or how the levers of government can work. It also means, in an equally sinister way, that the people who engineered the Capitol riot were also financed by, in one case, socialite that is part of the family that owns public supermarkets, right? You mean they can take her $300,000 and use it for an insurrection, an attack on our own nation and our own government? But the elected officials who appear to have been involved in that, some of them with Texas ties, can't even bother to help the people of their own state during a winter storm. If that doesn't make you pissed off, there's something wrong with you. We have allowed our elected officials, in terms of their ability to get things done and their government IQ, to decline to a point now where we get in people who are just activists that know how to yell, but they don't even know what to do, and they are in the office holding the titles, and you allow that. Watch Charlie Wilson's War. It's a true story, folks. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com.